What's up guys, I'm Dan with REP Fitness. Today we are going to be doing the assembly video on the PRA 1700. Here we have our 1100 rack. The PRA 1700 is compatible with the 1100 and also the 1000 with just a few added components. Cool, so here we have all the pieces laid out. I got them unboxed already. As you can see, you got the bolts kind of spaced out. First thing to know, the tools we're going to need for today. We're going to need a size 17 wrench and socket, a 14 wrench and socket, and a 13 wrench and socket, and also some silicone lubricant, which I'll show you towards the end of the video where that's going to come into play. You can use a drill if you want. Pretty simple to do with a ratchet also, or however you want to do it. Generally just use a drill, but if you are using a drill, just be careful not to over tighten the bolts, because you will if some drills are too powerful, you will bend the metal a little bit. Alrighty, so let's get started. First step is going to be this base piece here. Once again, you can do this all by yourself. It might be a little easier with a helper, but it's certainly not impossible to do by yourself. This first step here is probably the trickiest, just to get the bottom piece underneath this bottom cross member here. What I do is just lift it up and just set it right in there. So the bolts we're going to use for this one is going to be the 3-inch. It's going to have 2 washers and a nut. So yeah, basically pretty simple. Just line the bolts up, or line the holes up, get the bolts through, and put on the nut. Through the process, I like to keep just all the bolts loose, because it's going to just help everything line up a little easier. You won't be fighting things if you tighten them prematurely. So next step, we're going to grab this silver high-low here. We're going to place this on the rear spot. Just fits right over a little square part coming out. You can just kind of let it rest there. Grab my step stool because I'm vertically challenged. We're going to come here and grab this piece. Make sure this tab comes off the side is on the bottom. That's basically going to bump against this. Just make sure that's facing the appropriate way. We're going to slide that down on here. And this is kind of where that silicone comes into play. If you spray it down here, it'll help this piece glide up and down nice and smooth, but also show you at the end what I'm talking about there. All right, so the bolt you're going to use for this one is going to be the 2.5-inch bolt, a little bit shorter. Same thing, 2 washers and a nut. We're going to put that right down here at the bottom. And now this is secure to that bottom base piece. All right, and for our next step, we're gonna grab this top piece, just like so. And this piece is gonna go down inside the square tubing here. And this is basically just the top cross member. It's gonna have your pulleys in it. And the hooks up here is where the lat pull down bar is going to mount to. Bolt for this one, couple. We're going to use the smaller 2.5-inch that we did at the bottom. Same thing, 2 washers, 1 nut. And for the top cross member here is going to be the 3-inch, 2 washers, 1 nut. 2 of them. All right, moving on to our next step here. We're going to grab the weight horns and the 2 smaller bolts. These ones are 1 1/4 inch, threads all the way through them. 2 washers, 1 nut, same thing. And this piece is gonna go right here on the back. And this is gonna be where you put all your weights. And just make sure you have this facing the correct direction. The tab will basically come off of the silver part. Fit right on. Alrighty, and for our next step, we're gonna just go ahead and thread the cables through. Both these cables are the same exact length, so you don't need to worry about a top or a bottom. They are the exact same. So first, I like to start with the top one. One thing people get confused about is this cable and if it's supposed to go through the bar or over the bar. It's supposed to go over the top. If you thread it through the bar, it's gonna rub and eventually shred your cable, and we're gonna have to replace it. So we're gonna go up through the first pulley hole, right into the second. We're just gonna pull that through and let it hang for a minute. All right, so just to clarify, these two holes are gonna be where these pulleys are eventually gonna go. I just like to thread the cable through before, because if you put the pulleys in, this little end piece of the cable doesn't always fit, so it just makes it easier to put the cable in first. But eventually we'll get those pulleys up here on the next step. But now that we got them threaded through these two, we're gonna bring the end and put it right through the silver bar. Once again, another pulley is gonna be right here. And it's going to come down to the bottom. And we'll go ahead and do the same with the bottom piece. This one, nothing really to thread through. I'm just gonna put it in place of where the pulleys are gonna eventually go. All right, moving on to the pulleys. We're gonna have a few different bolts here that we're gonna use, as well as some bushings. I'll explain this. For the ones at the top here, this front one, this middle one, and the silver one, it's gonna require 2 of these black bushings, the 3-inch bolt, 2 washers, and a nut. So proper assembly of this with the bushings, it's gonna be bolt, washer, bushing. Make sure the flanges of the bushing are towards the outside. And then on the other side, same thing, bushing, washer, nut, and that'll be the proper assembly. We're gonna put on the 1 washer first, then one of the black bushings. Come up here. And basically that bushing is just to fill the void of space between the pulley and the top bar. Then on the back side, we're gonna go bushing, washer, and nut. And we're gonna repeat that exact same process for the next one. All right, moving on to the second one here at the top. I don't know if I said, but make sure the cable is on top of the pulley. Same thing, bolt, washer, bushing. And then on this far side, bushing, washer, nut. So we got our cable going up over the top of this pulley. Now over the top of this pulley, we're gonna come down to this pulley next. And with this one, the cable is gonna go over the top of the pulley again. I know it looks kind of funky right now, but it'll look normal here in just a second. Awesome. Alrighty, moving on to now the bottom pulley. Grab this pulley. This one is going to require the shorter bolt here with threads all the way through. This one is, I believe, 2 inches. Same thing, bolt, washer, 2 washers, sorry, and a nut. Bring it right down here. And on this one, we just want to make sure that the cable is on the bottom of the pulley. Pull that through just like so. Alrighty, now that we got the bottom done, we're gonna go ahead and use the 2 pulleys that connect the 2 cables together. So what you're gonna need for that is going to be these 2 pieces. You can situate them any way. The reason these have multiple holes in them is just tension of the cable. Basically, you can tension it however you want, basically. And next, we're gonna use the same bolt we used at the bottom piece, 2 washers and a nut. And what I like to do is connect these 2 brackets first with 1 pulley. So it's gonna go bolt bracket on one side and bracket on the other side, washer and a nut, just like so. And that's going to come right up over the top of this and hang here. Since I don't have this mounted to anything yet, I'm just gonna take it off and do the bottom first. But same thing with the bottom. It's gonna be that 2-inch bolt again, same that we've used for that, the bottom here. And this piece, connect it here. You can choose any hole that you like. There's not a right one, there's not a wrong one. I'm gonna just put it right in the middle here. And it's gonna be just like so. Helps if I connect the top cable. Alrighty, now that we have this piece here together, got the end of the cable here. We're gonna have a carabiner connected to the end. So connect that. We're gonna pull that down and connect it right to the top of these weight horns here. Hook it right through there. And now that piece is nice and secure. And now we're gonna move on to this bottom cable. Alrighty, now for this bottom cable, we're gonna use a chain here and 2 carabiners. We're gonna connect 1 carabiner to the top of the chain. We're gonna connect that carabiner to this bottom eyelet here. And then right here, you can adjust how much tension you have on the cable by which little eyelet you choose on the chain here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and connect it to the cable. Pull it tight, make sure nothing's off the pulleys or anything. And go ahead and just connect it right through. And you'll probably have a little bit of chain hanging. That's just normal. And that does it for the cabling. Alrighty, so for the last 2 carabiners we have here, one is going to attach at the bottom for the low row, and that'll connect to your attachments. And the second one right up here on the lat pull down. All right, and basically for the last step, we would just go through and tighten all the bolts. I'm not gonna do that on camera today because I'm sure you guys don't wanna watch me tighten all the bolts. So tighten all that up. And last step, we always recommend silicone lubricant. I know this looks like WD-40, but any silicone lubricant, you can pick that up at your local hardware store. Spray that on this nice shiny part here, rub it down, and that'll just help keep the weight horns gliding nice and smooth up and down that entire high-low. We don't recommend WD-40 really just because it's oil-based and it'll attract a lot of dust. So to keep it clean, always use silicone. Alrighty, that concludes the assembly for the PRA 1700. I hope this video can help. If you guys have any questions, reach out to us, let us know. But pretty straightforward, hopefully no issues, and I hope you guys enjoy it.